Hello, Mr. Smith. Welcome to our clinic. My name is Dr. Johnson, and I'll be looking after you today. I see from your medical records that you've been experiencing some pain and swelling in your right shoulder for a few weeks now. I'd like to understand more about how this started and how it's been affecting you, so we can find the best way to help you feel better. Is that correct?
You're right, doctor.
All right. In order to help you, I'll need to ask you a few questions about your symptoms. Would that be all right with you?
Sure thing.
Thanks, Mr. Smith. Could you tell me when you began experiencing this pain?
It was about 3 weeks ago.
Do you remember what you were doing at that time?
Yes, I was playing cricket with my friends at the local park. We play every weekend, and it was a pretty intense game that day. I didn't feel anything unusual at the time, but later on, I noticed some discomfort in my shoulder. I didn't think much of it initially, but the pain has gradually gotten worse since then.
Did you fall or have any direct impact on your shoulder during the game?
No, I didn't.
Did you feel any acute or sudden pain on that day? Perhaps later in the evening or the next day?
No, I didn't. I was just feeling a bit sore, which I thought was normal. Do you think I injured my shoulder during that game?
It's hard to say at this point, Mr. Smith. If you had experienced an acute injury, you would have likely felt severe pain immediately or shortly after. It's possible, though, that repetitive use or a minor, unnoticed trauma contributed to the current condition. How often do you play cricket?
I normally play in my spare time, mostly on weekends.
Is it every weekend, or do you sometimes skip?
Almost every weekend without fail.
I see. Have you ever had any issues with your shoulder before? Any previous injuries, dislocations, or even minor strains?
Not that I can remember. It's always been fine until now.
That's good to know. Have you noticed any other symptoms, such as numbness, tingling, or weakness in your arm?
No, none of those. Just the pain and swelling.
All right, do you mind if I examine your shoulder now? I'll need to check for any signs of inflammation, tenderness, or restricted movement.
No problem. Go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to examine you, Mr. Smith. Based on your symptoms and my examination, I believe you have bursitis. Bursitis is an inflammation of the fluid-filled sacs that act as cushions at the joints. It commonly occurs in joints that perform frequent repetitive motions. The pain, swelling, and stiffness you are experiencing align with this diagnosis. Common areas affected by bursitis include the knees, shoulders, elbows, and hips. Do you have any questions about what bursitis is?
Yes? Is it something serious? Can it be treated easily?
It's not life-threatening, but it can be quite painful and inconvenient if not treated properly. Treatment typically involves rest, ice, and over-the-counter pain relievers. The key is to give your shoulder time to heal. You must avoid activities that exacerbate the condition, like playing cricket until the swelling has gone down. Is that clear?
But cricket is my favorite activity. Isn't there even a small chance to play?
I understand how much you enjoy cricket, Mr. Smith, but playing before your shoulder has fully healed could cause further damage. If it becomes a chronic condition, you could face long-term problems, including the need for surgery. If surgery becomes necessary, recovery can take 6 months to a year, and you may have to stop playing cricket permanently. Is that a risk you're willing to take?
No, not at all, doctor. I don't want to make things worse.
I'm glad to hear that. It's important to prioritize your long-term health over short-term enjoyment. Besides resting your shoulder, I would suggest starting physiotherapy 7 days from today to help manage your condition better. This therapy will help improve your shoulder's strength and flexibility, reducing the risk of further injury. In addition, wearing joint protection will help prevent unwanted movements during your daily activities. Can you commit to that?
Yes, I think I can manage that.
Excellent, Mr. Smith. I'll also schedule a follow-up appointment with you in 30 days to assess your healing progress. How does that sound?
That sounds good, doctor.
Wonderful. I'll give you a leaflet with more detailed information on how to protect your shoulder and avoid future injuries, especially while playing cricket. Also, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns in the meantime. We're here to help.
Thank you, doctor. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mr. Smith. Take care and remember to follow the recommendations closely. I'm confident you'll be back on the field soon, but we need to take it step by step.
I will, Doctor. Thank you again.
You're very welcome. Take care and see you in a month.